Here we are. So, the movement snacks are an opportunity to just get moving this morning. Um, and we have Rachel here who's doing the British Sign Language. So anyone who needs Rachel can pin her. Um, and yeah, so basically, this has come about because we're part of a network, and this network is about movement and chronic pain, and we're called the Somatic Practice and Chronic Pain Network. So the word somatic practices, that's about, not so much about how the movement looks, but how it feels. So kind of noticing your sensations as you move, your breathing, and exploring movement in the space. So it's about you exploring your own movement. Um, so today we have Maria Kapsali from the University of Leeds, who's going to lead a session which is made like mainly around the senses. And I'm really excited to try that out with you. I'm just going to check if there's anything else I need to say before we begin. I'll have a look at my notes. Oh, yeah. So it's always really important to us to hear from you. So we'd be delighted if you want to post anything about where you are right now in the chat. And also at the end, any feedback you have for us. And we'll put a feedback link in the chat as well, because it helps us to continue this movement and see what we need to improve as well. Um, and yeah, that's it for now. So we're going to jump straight in. And we're going to also try and arrange the screen so you can see Maria well. But I'll hand over to Maria now. And see you shortly.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Emma. Thank you for arriving this morning. I hope you can all see me and hear me okay. So we're going to work together for the next 15 minutes or so, and then we'll leave a little bit of time for discussion at the end. So as Emma mentioned, we're going to work on two things, really. One is our multi-sphere, and I adapt this term from kinesphere, which was a term and a practice developed by a movement practitioner in the early 20th century called Rudolf Laban. And the kinesphere is basically the bubble towards which our movement can reach if we stay on the spot. And what I'm interested in exploring today is how our kinesphere is not just a kinesthetic sphere, but is a multisensory sphere. So that's one idea. And the other one is this relationship between doing, willed, intended action, and being done. So receiving. And the relationship between those two. And this is a kind of a thread that runs across somatic practice, but is quite prominent in the work of Elsa Gindler, who was, again, a German practitioner working at the beginning and the middle of 20th century. Unlike Laban, who left just before the Second World War and came here to the UK, Gindler stayed in Germany. She stayed in Berlin. And because of the circumstances, the somatic practice she was doing was very much put into the service and into relationship to the extreme political situation that was going on at the time. And I'm saying this in light of the election results yesterday, which kind of raises the question for us as to how somatic practice relates to what is going on in the world, how our multisphere relates to the multisphere of others. So this is, if you want, a kind of a wider context in the work we're going to do today. As Emma said, feel free to move away from the camera or turn your camera off. if I can, if I can see you on the camera, this might enable me to relate some of the invitations to what you're doing, but this is not essential. You can stand or sit, again, whatever is available to you today. And yeah, and you don't need to see me for any of this. You can you just need to be able to hear me. So I just would like to start with this idea of the kinesphere, and this idea that we can reach through our hands and arms, through our legs, through our shoulders, through our elbows, towards different directions. We can go forward, we can go back, we can go to the side, we can go to the left, we can go diagonal, we can go obliquely, we can traverse the body across, and we can reach with different parts, and we can actually reach and extend in more than one direction. So perhaps we are going to the right with one hand and to the left with another, or going forwards with the arms and backwards with the legs. So just explore the various areas of that sphere, that imaginary space we have around us and above us, if we stay on the spot. And then if we allow the exploration through the limbs to come to an end, we can bring the eyes. So another way in which we reach through the space is through the eyes. So you might take a couple of moments to move the eyes in different directions and just see, again, without moving in the space, staying on the spot, which parts of the sphere the eyes can reach. And then we can make this bigger and allow the head to move the eyes. And then we find that if we position the origin of our action in the body, on the hinges of the body, we actually have more space. We can see almost 360 degrees behind us, especially if we allow a little bit of twist in the spine. So we've got the eyes, the head, and now we can bring back the limbs. And we can put those things together in this very, very powerful organization between head, eyes, and hand. The mobile phone is working very much on this organization, and it has a neurological basis, the relationship between the eyes and the hand. And what would happen now if we break this apart? So if our hand and arm extends one way and our head extends the other, it might feel a bit unusual. That's not how we would do things. And what if we invite a further separation and we send the eyes one way, the head another, and the arms even a third one. So we have three directions. I'll try and do this again. Direction one way with the arm, another way with the head, a different way with the eyes. You may want to take this very slowly and just see. Yeah, you may need to stack those things sequentially And now let's go and put them back in all together again. So if we extend the limbs one way, that's the way the head faces, and that's where the eyes face. And that kind of shows us how ingrained the alignment of eyes, head, and limbs, especially arms and hands, how embedded that alignment is in our perceptual and kinesthetic system. And the other amazing thing is that our arms and our legs have a hinge joint which brings them in half, cuts them in half. And that's really interesting because it means we can shorten our arm and bring it close to us, and we can also extend it. So there is something about opening out to the world, but also withdrawing, retracting, coming in. So maybe play a little bit now with this movement, inwards and outwards. And of course, we can mirror this movement through the eyes. We can withdraw the gaze, gather it in, and open it out. And again, we can put eyes and limbs together, or we can pull them apart. So what if we withdraw the gaze in, but we open out through the hands and the arms, and whilst we draw the hands and arms in, we open out with the gaze. Again, this might feel very unusual and unnatural, if you want, in a way. And let this come to an end, and take a moment in soft standing or in sitting just to get a sense, register how what we've done. We've worked now for about 8 minutes. How what we've done has affected what's going on, how it has affected your breath, maybe your temperature, your breathing pattern, your thought pattern. And in what we've done, there was a very concrete sense, if you want, or a very stable sense of a center, of an I, a person, a will, from which this action, those decisions emanated. And now we're going to explore a different modality. So if we come to sitting or standing, and if we bring our attention to the surface between our feet and whatever our feet are standing on, and if you're sitting, you have one more interface there, so you might want to bring your attention also to the sitting bones and the relationship between the sitting bones and your chair. And now we're going to begin to slightly sway to the right, to the left, maybe a bit forward, maybe a bit back. And you can imagine that we're a giant spoon and we're stirring cocoa in a giant mug. And we want to move the cocoa at the base of the mug as much as possible. You know how sometimes it kind of goes and sits there. So we want to upset it. We want to visit our base, whether this is a seated base or a standing base. We want to visit that landscape as much as possible. We want to explore it. Now, what you may find, if you make those circles bigger or those movements bigger, is that as the weight moves more to one side, the other side becomes empty, even to a point where you might be able to lift a buttock off the chair or a foot off the floor. And there is something about that transfer of weight that is happening despite our movement, that is constantly there. So we are moving, but what is also going on there is a movement of the weight across the skeleton. And if we allow our staring to become smaller and allow the weight to come and rest wherever it wants to be this morning, you may find that it goes more to the back or more to the front or more to one side, or maybe it's just right in the middle. And if it's available for you today and you would like to close your eyes for the next bit, please do so. Or you could just lower the gaze and draw the eyes in. And what we're going to do now is we're going to bring our attention to another interface. And this is sound and our ears. So just take a moment to register what kind of sound reaches you right now, from what direction, how this sound lands in your body, in your perceptual system. And what would happen if we activate the giant spoon? If we go back to the swaying, how is that going to impact how and what we hear? You may find that even small replacements of the weight of the head, of the ears, changes quite a lot. How much we hear and what we hear in the sound. So just take a moment to explore that relationship between the local kinesphere, the kinesphere as we experience it with the body at its center, staying on the spot, and an extended kinesphere, a sphere as we experience it through sound, which can reach and open out our perception into space way, way beyond what we can reach with our hands. And allow that swaying to become bigger. And we can now bring together the other aspect of the work. So we have sound that reaches us and reaches us without our consent. We don't have any say in what kind of sound may reach us at any one point. And we keep an active awareness of that, whilst also bringing the intentional part of our kinesphere, our movement, our eyes, and our head. And just see then all those directions that are possible and operative at any one point. We might have a direction in which we stretch, a direction in which we look, also the direction from which different sounds find us. And there might be different sounds in your environments at this point. There might be different affordances in the body. What would it mean to align our intentional movement with the sound that is present. What would it mean to move in relation to sound as opposed to the eyes? I think we have a word for this, and it's called dancing. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much. And if you'd like to come back to the screens, keeping the dance of the hands and the weight and the eyes and the ears open. And we have a few minutes for reflections, comments.
Thank you so much, Maria. Wow, I'm taking all of that in now. There's all the directions, and the lawnmower has now started making sound outside, and I'm just taking it all in with my movement. Thank you. Um, so yeah, we have about 5 minutes if anyone wants to stay and make a comment. We're going to put our feedback form in the chat. And Lizzie's just put it in there. Or you can put a comment in the chat. You can turn on your camera and say something. I'm going to pause the recording now, so you feel comfortable speaking if you wish.